The Complete LLC Beginner's Guide, the easy way to create and manage your limited liability company, save on taxes, and avoid costly mistakes. Written by Andrew and Courtney James. Narrated by Michael Haytek. Copyright 2024. Introduction. Start your business without the stress. Being a business owner is an exciting prospect. When you own a business, you get to share your products or services with the world on your own terms. Sure, being a business owner can be hard work, especially at the beginning when you're trying to build a brand, find reliable employees, and establish yourself as a trusted authority in your field. As if that weren't stressful enough, it's a litigious world out there. Although you want your name to be synonymous with the excellence of your products and services, you don't want it tied to your personal assets if something should go wrong. Business insurance is a tremendous thing, but if you really want to protect yourself, your business, and your assets, then consider creating your new enterprise as an LLC, or limited liability corporation. LLCs don't exist solely to protect your assets. There are many other reasons to establish an LLC, which we will discuss in this book. But you may want to know what my expertise is on the subject. My story, why I started an LLC. I started my first e-commerce business about 8 years ago. I wanted to protect myself individually, but also have my finances, taxes, and everything else separate from the start. I scoured the internet to figure out how to start an LLC and piecemealed the process together. It took me forever to figure it out, and I remember being so nervous because I wasn't sure it was done correctly and didn't want to get into trouble with the government or have anything come back to bite me financially. When eventually I closed that company, I had no idea what to do or how to dissolve it. I just kind of let it float away from me, hoping I wouldn't get any sort of trouble. I wish I had a step-by-step process to follow that would have given me the peace of mind that I was setting my business up correctly. A few years later, my wife and I got into real estate investing and started an LLC for that company. I was more confident this time around, given I'd formed an LLC before, but again, I wasn't sure I was done right. So I went back to the internet to try to figure it out, submitted all of my forms, and held my breath. Finally, we started a third LLC for another company we started, but this time we took a different approach. We were overwhelmed by the idea of running and operating two different LLCs that we weren't even confident had been established correctly, plus an S corporation that we own, so we looked into more advanced options. Not to mention, we had some unfinished business with the e-commerce business I left by the wayside, as well as another LLC my wife had before we were married. We decided on two things. First, we're going to clean up our mess and get organized. Second, we were going to ensure that everything was set up 100% correctly from the start with our new company and get the real estate LLC up to snuff. In the end, after a ton of research that just led to more questions, confusion, and uncertainty, we decided we wanted to nest our LLCs under a holding company. So, we hired a company to help us get it right the first time. What is a holding company and why did we start one? A holding company is a separate legal business entity that owns a controlling interest in another company or companies, known as a subsidiary. These are also sometimes referred to as parent companies that own and control many companies. There are many reasons to start a holding company, but it is not necessary for everyone and may not be applicable in your situation. We decided to start one for extra liability protection, simpler business management, the opportunity for lower financing costs, and estate planning purposes. With the help of professionals, we started our holding company, then our new LLC, and ended up creating another real estate LLC. Why did we do that? Because we decided we want all of our companies to be in a state where we, the owners, along with our personal information, could remain anonymous. There are a few states that do this, but Wisconsin, our home state, is not one of them. Long story short, we started our holding company, a new LLC, and a real estate LLC in another state with better privacy laws, and deeded our Wisconsin Real Estate LLC into the new out-of-state LLC. The best part is we are confident everything was done correctly, which gave us tremendous peace of mind and clarity. What we learned, though, is that it's really not as complicated of a process as it seems. I can feel your stress levels going up just reading my story. Our journey is somewhat complicated, but the average person should have no trouble starting an LLC with the confidence they are doing it correctly, without paying a company or professional for help, and without needing a law degree to understand all that is required. That's why I decided to write this book, to help everyday people start their businesses off on the right foot. You have way more to do than worry about paperwork when starting your business. I get it. My wife and I are both entrepreneurs. What gets us excited every day is not business entity formation, but growing our businesses, building wealth, and the future we dream about for our family. We want to help you do that too. Unfortunately, getting all our legal ducks in a row is a necessary part of a thriving business. So, although it can be boring and a bit mundane, we hope to help you get through the process as quickly and smoothly as possible so you can be confident your foundation is set and move on to what matters most. Now, let's talk about you. We'll explore the types of LLCs, the tax implications of having an LLC, and the regulations and record-keeping aspects of LLCs, and also walk you through the steps of setting up an LLC and dissolving one. Along the way, you'll learn all the ins and outs of daily, monthly, quarterly, and yearly operations to prepare you for everything that comes with being a part of an LLC. In this book, you'll learn the amazing benefits of an LLC, which include flexibility, manageability, and transference, and the details and tips you need to know to handle your business's long and short-term obligations and operations. If you're ready to learn and eager to be part of the exciting world of business ownership, let's get started. Part 1. Everything you need to know to create your LLC. Chapter 1. Why start an LLC? My best advice to entrepreneurs is this: forget about making mistakes, just do it. Ejero Tony Martins. Starting a business can be both exhilarating and terrifying. The terror is usually focused on making mistakes like setting up the business the wrong way, and then being hit with absurd taxes and/or putting your personal assets at risk. Before we do a deep dive into LLCs, I'd like to offer this bit of wisdom that may help ease the beginner's jitters. Rookie mistakes happen. But after you read this book, you will know the ins and outs of LLCs, whether they're right for you, and how to set one up. By its nature, an LLC offers limited liability protection, and it's important to know exactly what it does before you start one. My aim is to help you set up your fledgling LLC so your business hits the ground running and keeps on running smoothly. Not all lessons have to be hard. We'll begin this lesson by answering two very important questions. What is an LLC? And is an LLC right for you? Let's begin. What is an LLC? LLC stands for Limited Liability Company. This is a type of business that takes the freedom and perks of a self-owned business and combines it with limited liability protection, much like that of a corporation. This means that instead of being liable at great personal risk if something happens with the business, you and your assets are protected. If the business is sued, you and any other individuals who own the LLC would not be sued personally and will not have to worry about losing personal assets. Before we get into how LLCs function, let's take a look at why it exists in the first place: the security of limited liability protection. What does limited liability protection mean? LLCs are formed in order to protect personal assets from the debts or judgments the business may incur. Only the LLC would be liable in the event of a lawsuit, not its members, co-owners. However, its protection is not complete, hence the term limited. Be sure to check with your state's regulations and read on to discover what is or isn't protected. Let's discuss the protections that LLCs offer and what they don't protect. Protection against personal liability for business debts. If the LLC can't pay its debts, you are not personally liable. Creditors can go after the business bank accounts, property, and other assets, but not the personal assets of the members. However, yes, there's always a however. Many creditors will demand personal guarantees up front when you're obtaining business loans or business credit cards. If your name is on that guarantee, you're liable for that debt. Because all members would typically sign these guarantees, everyone would be personally liable for the debt should the LLC default on a loan. Protection against personal liability for the actions of LLC members or employees. This protection applies in all states. LLC owners are personally protected from any wrongdoing or negligence by other members, co-owners, or the company's employees during the course of doing business. Only the owner or owners or employees involved in wrongdoings would be personally liable. For example, if an employee shows up to work drunk and causes a car accident while making a delivery, and the other person involved in the accident is seriously hurt, the LLC will likely be sued and found liable for the negligence of its employee. While the LLC's assets can be seized, the owners would not be held personally liable and would not have to pay any judgments against the LLC. What do LLCs not protect against? Let's look at the limited part of an LLC's protection, specifically what you as an LLC owner do inside and outside of the business. Personal liability for your own actions. All states feature this exception. You are always personally liable for any wrongdoings committed during the course of business. This includes your negligence that causes injury or property damage, as well as tax and other types of fraud. Say you fail to implement safety precautions and an employee is injured on the job. You're liable. Personal debt. You can't hide behind your LLC if you get into trouble financially. Creditors can't go after LLC assets to satisfy the personal debts of an LLC owner. However, creditors have lots of options to get their money back, and these vary depending on the state. These include obtaining a charging order, which forces the LLC to pay the creditor the money through foreclosing on the individual's LLC membership or ownership interest. In this scenario, the creditor becomes a part owner of the LLC and enjoys all of the former member's financial rights, including a percentage of the profits. The creditor can also sell the shares to satisfy the debt. Creditors may also take the drastic measure of a court order to dissolve the LLC and then garnish the offending member's share. State laws vary, but the short story is, if you are in debt personally, creditors will find a way to get their money through your LLC. The LLC's assets are not protected from your personal debt. Now that you know what protections are offered by forming an LLC, let's look at the pros and cons of this business model. Pros of an LLC. There are quite a few pros to having an LLC, from personal convenience to cost effectiveness to protection. Let's take a deep dive into some of the most important benefits that an LLC can provide its members. Protection of personal assets. Structuring a business as an LLC protects you and your assets from debts, lawsuits, and other liabilities. This liability protection is limited, as we've discussed above, but in general, if everyone acts ethically, your assets are protected. Flexible management and ownership rules. LLCs provide broad flexibility in the structuring of management and ownership for the business. Members can choose to manage the company themselves, member managed, or designate specific individuals to run the business, manager managed. Ownership percentages and profit shares can be tailored according to the contributions, agreements, or other criteria set out in the LLC's operating agreement. Unless the state laws regarding LLCs are broken, almost anything placed in an operating agreement can dictate how things function within the business. Flexible tax status. LLCs offer flexibility in taxation. LLCs are treated as pass-through entities, meaning profits and losses are passed through to the individual member's tax returns. However, LLCs have the option to elect to be taxed either as a C corporation or an S corporation, which we'll discuss later. if this structure benefits their unique situation. This tax flexibility allows members to optimize their tax planning, as one size doesn't fit all. LLCs also provide flexibility in tax planning. You can take advantage of deductions, credits, and other tax strategies to minimize your overall tax burden. Furthermore, you can distribute profits among members in a tax-efficient manner based on their individual financial situations. Be sure to consult with a tax professional about the implications of an LLC for you and your business. Flexible profit distribution. An LLC offers flexibility in profit distribution to its members. Unlike some other business structures where profit sharing is strictly tied to ownership percentages, LLC members can choose to distribute profits based on other criteria, as long as those criteria are clearly outlined in the operating agreement. This flexibility allows for the creation of profit distributions that meet the unique needs and contributions of each member. It's an advantageous situation in the case of unequal financial or sweat equity contributions, and will prevent future disputes as long as everything is spelled out crystal clear in the operating agreement. Flexible operations structure. Creating an LLC is often the ideal solution for small businesses, startups, and family-owned businesses. An LLC provides a simple and flexible structure for business operations and offers limited liability protection to the members. The operating agreement clearly states the LLC rules, agreed upon by all members, which virtually eliminates disputes regarding ownership shares and responsibilities. Simplified influx of capital. One thing not as commonly understood about an LLC is that it can also be a way to obtain capital for your business. With the flexible rules regarding ownership and operations, members can vote at any time to add new members to introduce fresh financial contributions that can invigorate a struggling business or scale an already successful business. Optimized real estate investments. Many real estate investors use LLCs to hold and manage their properties. LLCs offer limited liability protection, tax benefits, and flexible ownership structures that are beneficial for real estate investors. An LLC can also make it easier and safer to pool resources with other investors, adding layers of protection for high-risk investments or different scenarios involving various types of properties. Simplified estate planning. An LLC can be a valuable tool in estate planning, whether you're using a regular LLC or a family LLC. You can transfer ownership interests in the LLC to your heirs or beneficiaries as part of your estate plan, or create an LLC to handle assets after you've passed away. This allows for smooth transitions and potentially avoids probate and other complications from your beneficiaries. Protection of intellectual property. Many creative individuals don't properly address the importance of safeguarding their intellectual property, IP. They often put their own names on the application for patents, trademarks, or copyrights, thinking that this will ensure that they themselves are the rightful owner. Well, yes, except that this can backfire. An author of a book will copyright it as soon as it has been written. Say a movie producer picks up the story and it's made into a movie. Now, you need to manage two different revenue streams. A tough problem to have, I know. If the LLC, rather than you, owns the copyright, you may enjoy tax benefits as well as personal protection if someone comes forward and says you plagiarized their work. An LLC can help protect not only your IP, but your personal assets if there's ever a dispute like trademark, patent, or copyright infringement. There are a couple of things to consider. If you leave the LLC, the IP stays with the LLC, making your exit cleaner. You will need to negotiate and get legal counsel if you want to take your IP with you and place it into another LLC. If you want to attract investors or want to sell the company, the IP will increase the company's overall value. Tip: form an LLC before you apply for a patent, trademark, or copyright. Then assign the exact name of the LLC as the owner. It's important to use the exact name. For example, if your LLC is called Smith Consulting, you have to remember to add LLC at the end, Smith Consulting LLC, because that is the legal entity, whereas simply Smith Consulting is not. This is a mistake that is extremely difficult to correct and possibly irreversible. A solution for short-term projects. LLCs are not limited to long-term businesses. They are also suitable for short-term projects, joint ventures, or collaborations, such as a real estate development project. Independent contractors also benefit from operating as an LLC. You can form an LLC specifically for a particular project, allowing for shared ownership, liability protection, and clear management for the duration of the project, and then easily dissolve the business once the project is complete. Asset segregation. An LLC allows you to segregate assets and liabilities. This means you can establish separate LLCs for different business endeavors or assets. Each LLC operates independently, and its liabilities do not typically extend to the assets of other LLCs. This segregation can provide added protection and organization, especially for business owners with multiple ventures. For example, Rita is the owner of a very multifaceted business that offers several types of services. Instead of lumping all her services under one company, she has created LLCs for each one: her legal firm, her real estate investing service, her wealth management consulting, her financial and career consulting service for Black and other minority women, and her business consulting service for minority-owned businesses. Each business is a separate entity and operates as a distinct business. Rita has set these up as individual SLLCs, series LLCs, which we'll go into shortly. This is a type of LLC that is more advantageous to people who operate different types of businesses. Cons of an LLC. Though there are many benefits to an LLC, there are a few cons that are worthy of consideration before you sign any paperwork. Let's take a closer look at why starting an LLC isn't right for everyone. The illusion of total protection. It's important to note that there is a concept referred to as piercing the LLC veil, in which members of an LLC can personally be held legally liable, thus voiding this protection. This is a very rare occurrence, however, and generally happens when members are engaged in fraudulent or illegal activities and or have broken statutes pertaining to the requirements of an LLC. Some individuals or businesses may misuse the LLC structure to engage in fraudulent or unjust activities, such as evading taxes, engaging in fraudulent business practices, or hiding assets. While an LLC is a legitimate business structure, such misuse can lead to legal consequences and negate the protection it offers. As long as everyone operates ethically, you're almost guaranteed safety. Another issue can pierce the veil: failing to separate yourself from your business. Businesses are professional entities and therefore require professional actions and formalities. They must be kept separate from personal affairs and finances. If you fail to keep your personal and professional doings separate, you open yourself up to the issue of piercing the veil. It's essential to treat your LLC as a separate entity, including keeping separate financial records and accounts and not using company money for personal use. If your personal finances mix with professional finances, the courts and the IRS are able to treat you and your business as the same entity, voiding the legitimacy of any liability protections an LLC provides. Additional work and complexity. There's a level of complexity and effort required to create and maintain an LLC as opposed to a simple partnership. The initial work of setting up an LLC centers around creating a bomb-proof operating agreement. This is where everything is outlined. I like to compare it to the U.S. Constitution, where guidelines are set forth regarding membership and ownership and operations. Without this document, all hell could break loose if there's ever a dispute. We'll go into the nuances of creating an operating agreement shortly. For now, know that while it takes time and effort to create this document, the benefits will become apparent anytime the LLC wants to add members, members wish to leave, there's a transfer of shares, or in the case of disagreements. For the most part, LLCs are advantageous. LLCs are not ideal if someone wants to hide shady deals behind company dealings, treats the business as an extension of their body, or fails to draw up a comprehensive operating agreement. Types of LLCs. One size does not fit all. Now that you know what protections an LLC offers, as well as its pros and cons, let's discuss the various types of LLCs and their intended purposes. There are different types of LLCs, each with different intentions. Most types of LLCs fall under the umbrella of multi-member LLCs, though some of the examples below can be operated as a single-member LLC. Single-member LLC. A single-member LLC, SMLCC, is an LLC with only one owner or member. The purpose of this LLC is typically centered around personal liability protection, as well as protection of intellectual property. The limited liability given to the sole owner of an SMLLC is vital for protecting that person's personal assets. Some business owners make the mistake of allowing their company to be intertwined with them. It's often easy to see a person and their business as one entity. So, this level of protection is key. The owner has to be careful that they actually keep themselves separate, or this protection becomes null and void. Here's where it gets a little confusing. At the same time as the business owner enjoys this limited protection, he or she can also claim business contributions, expenses, and income on their personal taxes. When doing taxes, the IRS refers to this type of LLC as a disregarded entity, given the LLC and the individual are handled on the same tax return as opposed to separate ones. On the plus side, this designation simplifies the tax process. There is a downside to this, however. As both employee and employer, the owner of an SMLLC must pay both types of taxes like anyone who is self-employed. That's why working with a tax professional is essential. There's a great level of flexibility and ease with an SMLLC. It allows you to run things in a structured way that follows guidelines and offers protection while still leaving room for your own unique management style. With only one member, there are no negotiations about who will contribute what or how things will be handled. There's also less need for an operating agreement, as everything falls to the single member. I still recommend creating one to distinguish yourself from your business, simplify operations, and potentially prepare the LLC to bring on additional members in the future. Multi-member LLC. A multi-member LLC, MMLLC, is an LLC with two or more members. This type of LLC also protects each member from liability. This protection typically matches their level of investment and contributions to the LLC. Another benefit of an MMLLC is that the burden of work, as well as finances, can be split between members. Contributions, allocations, and distributions are decided by the members. This structure leaves room for additional investments from new members if the business needs a cash infusion. It also allows for more of a team-like running of the business so that things can operate smoothly and efficiently without anyone being overworked. A well-written, comprehensive operating agreement is an essential element of an MMLLC. Due to the extra moving parts and responsibilities, there's always the possibility of disputes, misunderstandings, and mistakes. If there are no guidelines on how to resolve the issues, the company could risk getting bogged down in interpersonal issues. An operating agreement that clearly states everyone's roles and responsibilities, along with contributions and disbursements, will save a lot of headaches, arguments, and time later on. Unlike single-member LLCs, MLLCs can be taxed in two different ways. Depending on how the LLC operates and the preferences of the members, the LLC can be taxed as a corporation or a partnership. Work with a tax professional to ensure the most advantageous tax situation for an MMLLC. Professional LLC. A professional LLC is an LLC created by a professional who may face liability in their work. Examples include medical professionals, lawyers, architects, real estate developers, and engineers. This type of LLC is often called a professional limited liability company, LLP, and provides protection from liability for the professionals themselves, keeping them and their assets safe from most malpractice issues. It's important to note that the scope of a professional LLC varies depending on the profession, as well as the state where the professional works. If the professional travels to other states to do work, they may need to take extra steps, such as filing LLC paperwork in the states they operate in. For peace of mind, I recommend consulting with an attorney experienced in professional LLCs.